Okay, so in part one, we exported the student data from Aries and we verified that each student had a valid email address. And in this part, we are going to export the email list for that freshman class from Google Groups. And we're going to put that information side by side with the information from Aries, and we're going to use the formula you see on the screen, the VLOOKUP formula, to compare the data in the two columns. And so the way the VLOOKUP works is it tells the spreadsheet to search down a column to compare data from one cell, or you can actually even write specific data in there over a range and tell you if it finds that data or not. So if it finds the data, it just copies it. If it doesn't find the data, it gives you an error. And that way I can see which kids are missing from the email list. Now in part one, when I use the verification for email addresses, that caught some mistakes. I may actually made this video first before I had thought about how to do the verification of the email addresses. So you're going to see the same mistakes pop up in a different context, but I think that's good because you'll see how to deal with them when they pop up. So let's see how we find our missing students. So I've got their emails already. I've created another spreadsheet which I'm going to use to compare the data from Aries to the data that's in GAFE, into Google Apps for Education. So one of my columns is in Aries, so I want the emails of all the kids that are listed in Aries. So I'm just going to copy column D. Actually, I've already got my headers in there, so I'm going to highlight the bottom cell, scroll up to the top, and do a shift click to highlight all of them, and Control C. I'm going to go over to my other spreadsheet and in Aries, and again, just to make sure I don't pull any unwanted formatting, I'm going to paste values only. So there's my 456 freshmen who are in Aries. Now I need to pull the data from the GAFE admin console. And so I'm going to look for my freshman email group. So it's ECHS class of 2019. There it is. And if you've used this before, you know that when you click on Manage Users, you get to see a whopping 30 users at a time. And I don't know if you noticed on the previous screen, but there were over 500 kids listed in this email group. And looking at them 30 at a time is very tedious. And if you're going to try to delete a kid and their email doesn't happen to start with A, then you're going through a lot of pages, and these pages are very slow loading. So this is a problem. And we have told Google it's a problem, and they haven't done anything about it or responded to tell us a way to get around it. But the way you can get around it is, instead of managing the users here in the GAFE admin panel, if you click on Access Settings, it takes you to the Google Groups Management page. And this is much more user-friendly. So under Members, if I click the little arrow and then I click All Members, I can get this to show me all the members in the group on one page. So right now it's showing me 200 out of 529. That's good, but it's not good enough. I mean, it's way better than 30, but I want to see all 529 on one page. So if I scroll down, you'll see loading appears in the lower left corner, and now when I look up here, it's showing 400 of 529. So all I got to do is scroll down again to the bottom, and now it's showing me all 529 members. So there are several columns in here. Tells you when they were joined. You'll see that posting is not allowed for our student groups. Student members cannot post to the group email list because that could create havoc. The only ones who can post are people who are owners of the list. And so we add all of our admin, all of our counselors, library staff and SPO staff as owners of the list. The downside of that is we get all the student emails when they're sent out by other people, but it does keep the email list secure and keeps kids from posting silly stuff. At the top, you'll see you can find members. You really don't even need that. If you do a Control F and I look for M. Stanley, this is just like a Control F in any other document. It highlights the ones when it finds it, and it tells me how many there are, and it'll let me move up and down between the occurrences. So if there's a lot of them, you know, if I just put MS, there's 10 occurrences in the list, and I can move down through them, and you'll see them highlighted in orange. So that makes it very easy if you're trying to remove a kid. You can just do a Control F, find the kid, and remove them. And the way you remove them is you have to select the kid by clicking the box next to their email or next to their display name. You'll notice when the no boxes are clicked, the actions menu is blanked out. But once I click one, now I have my actions menu, and I can remove people from the group. I can also change roles, change other settings. So I don't want to delete this kid because I don't know if they're supposed to be in there or not. What I'm really looking for on this page, though, is the export members. So if I click the box up at the top here, it's going to select all 529 members, and I'm going to click Export Members. And Google is going to export this in a CSV file. Why they do that, I'm not sure, since they're not really CSV friendly, although they have improved that. I'm going to just click Save in my Downloads folder. It takes just a second to export them all. And I'm going to click on the file name here at the bottom of the Chrome web browser. Now, since I'm on a Windows computer, it defaulted to Excel. If you're on a Chromebook, it will open it up in Google Sheets. I don't need all the information on here. All I'm looking for are email addresses. And so I'm going to click the first email address, and then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, which should be 531 because we had two header columns, two column headers up there. Do a shift click, do Control C, and now I'm going to go back to my Google Sheet, and again I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste special and paste values only so I don't pick up any extraneous formatting. And so now I have two side-by-side lists. So these are the kids who are in the email list, or these are the addresses in the email list. These are the kids who are actually enrolled in Aries in the class of 2019. And you'll see that these lists don't match up. So if we go to the bottom, oops, I always go too far. Okay, so here's the bottom of the kids who are actually enrolled in the class, 456 of them plus a header, and then here are the kids who are in the list, and so that's a lot more. That's over 100 kids who need to be removed from the list, and it's probably even more than that because there are some kids in column B who are not on that list. And that is what we're after. We want to find out who's not on that list. And we'll do that in just a second. So what I want to do is I want to take this cell in column B and I want to search column A and make sure that user is in there. Because this kid I know is enrolled, and I want to make sure he's actually on the email list. So in column C, I'm going to insert a formula. And whether you're using Excel or you're using Google Sheets, all formulas start with equals. And I'm going to do what's called a VLOOKUP. And VLOOKUP is a vertical lookup, so it's going to search down a column or even a wider range, and it's going to look for data. Okay, so the data it's looking for is the search key. And I want it to look for the data in cell B2. So I'm going to put B2 there, and then comma. And now it wants the range. So where do I want it to look for the data? I want it to look in column A. So I could actually write a range in here. I could do A2 colon A whatever. I forget how many kids are in this list, but it's a lot of them. Or I can just tell it to do the entire column. So the way you do that is just A colon A. And the computer interprets that as search column A until you run out of data. So that's my range. The index, since this is actually capable of working on multiple columns, I only have one column in my range, so the index is 1. And it's even showing me what effect that 1 has. It's looking for that first student. And then the is sorted is optional. So let's leave it out and see what happens. So if it finds this data, then it just prints what it finds. So it did find the student in the email list. Now I need to check the other 460 some kids and make sure that they're in there. I don't want to write that formula over and over again, but Google Sheets, just like Excel, has this magical little thing where it will take a formula and apply it to each cell in a column if you drag it down. So I click on cell C2, and I get that little box, and I just move the cursor until it turns into a cross, and I start dragging down. And I'm going to drag it all the way down to the bottom of column B, because column B is what I'm searching for. And column A is much longer, so I just need it to stop right here. Okay, so, and it's telling me that every kid is in there, and I don't think that's actually accurate. So I'm going to go back in here and edit my formula. Apparently that index, is sorted is important, so I'm going to put in here false. And now I'm going to try this again. And if every kid is in that email list, that would be a very surprising result. That means that my assistant is doing his job and working hard. Okay. So let's see what results we got. Okay, so the false is important. The NA is what I'm looking for. And it's an error message, but it says it did not find the value R. Martinez in the VLOOKUP. So R. Martinez right here is enrolled in the school. He's in the freshman class, but he's not in the freshman email list. And that's what I need to know. So what I need to do now is go back up here, and I'm going to sort my columns. And I sort all of them together. I don't want to sort just the one column because then I want to make sure that the NA is with the correct email address. You see, we got quite a few kids we're going to need to add. So I go to Data, Sort Range. My data has a header row, and so I want to sort by add NA to email list, and I'm going to tell it to do it in reverse alphabetical order, and you will see why in just a second. So I sort it, and what that does is it brings all the NAs up to the top. So we have 71 kids in the freshman class who are not in the freshman email list. And that is a little shocking. That's a big number. I need to make sure those kids get in the list right away. So what I'm going to do is I am going to highlight their emails. So I'm going to highlight the 71 kids who are missing. And I'm going to copy that data. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to add big group of users into the freshman class email list using the group control panel rather than the GAFE admin panel, because in the GAFE admin panel we can only add 25 at a time. The Google Group Control Panel, I think, can do a lot more than that. The one caveat is that they have to be separated by commas. And when I copied them from the spreadsheet, they, of course, were not separated by commas. I could export the list as a CSV, but I like messing around with formulas. So I put a comma in column B. The email addresses are in column A, and I'm going to use one of my favorite formulas, which is concatenate. Love the word. So I'm going to concatenate the information in cell A1 with the information in cell B1, and not B, exclamation point, in B1, and I'm doing 1 instead of 2 because I didn't put any headers in here, because this is just sort of a quick and dirty way of getting the information that I want. And just like before, I'm going to extend that formula down, and as I extend it down, it's automatically going to change the cell reference so that it does the right row. And there we have, so V Roman now is V Roman with a comma at the end. So I can copy those, and I'm going to go back to the Google Groups. I'm doing a direct add of members into my ECHS class of 2019 email list, and I'm going to paste those in there. I'm adding them as members, which you got to be careful of. Members in our student groups cannot post to the group, they can only receive. Owners are the only ones who can post, and those would be you know, the GAFE admin, me, the school administrators, counselors, student body office people, and a few other people who have the need to address large groups of kids. And so now I'm going to click Add. Some email addresses are invalid. Oh, why? Okay, so what I see here is a problem in our email addresses in Aries. That's interesting. So we found some with, look like some had some spaces. So here we have J de la Rosa, and that should not have spaces in it. Obviously, an email address cannot have spaces. So I'm going to highlight him in a nice fuchsia there, so I know to go back and fix that in Aries. I'll fix it in the email list too. So that probably is just a product of uploading from a file, or actually auto-generating the email addresses from a list, probably using something similar to concatenate. And I'll have to go through the rest of that list and see what happens. So C Teshera has a period at the end. That's another thing that'll probably have to be fixed in Aries. So I learned some important information with this failure. I think the official term for that is failing forward. So I need to highlight this one in fuchsia too. And I need to go through the rest of the list and see if that has happened anywhere else. So C Teshera needs the period removed. Oh, no, I can't do that. I got to do it over here. Duh. Can't do that in the formula one. And then the De La Rosa, I think that was, yeah, it's a J De La Rosa. So I need to go in and get rid of his spaces, because spaces are no bueno in an email address. Okay, and so my concatenate formula automatically fixed that when I fixed it in column A. So let's try this one more time. But I mean, at least I'm finding mistakes that are going to cause problems for the kids when they try to access Aries to see their grades. So now I'm going to paste those again. Now I'm assuming the 68 were added and only those 2 were not, but we will see. Okay, I could have fixed those. Okay, that was dumb. Okay. Let me go to my... Okay, so what I did there was a little goof up. I could have just fixed those 2 email addresses right in that little window, but I didn't read the screen carefully. So I'm going to have to add all 70 again, but not a big deal because I just need to copy and paste. And again, I'm doing the direct add as members. I've got them concatenated with the comma, so we should be good to go. Okay, so invalid email address. Okay, so this one, I've learned my lesson. I just need to put in muhsdstudents.org and now tell it to verify that address. And amore 500 at muhsd. Some users are outside the muhsd valid accounts. Our group is configured to allow only organization members. Please contact your group. Okay, so I'm supposed to contact myself for help. I'm going to pause. Okay, so this is interesting. I know it looks like I'm messing this up big time, but what I'm doing is I'm actually finding problems that need to be addressed that I would not have found if I added them through the admin panel. Because when you put an invalid email address in the admin panel, it still puts it in the list. It just doesn't put it in the same. Doesn't put it in blue. It'll put the name. It won't be a link. You won't be able to click on it and edit it. Although it's a failure, it's a good failure. Failing forward again. This kid does not have an email address in our domain, but he is in Aries. I checked, and he is an active student. So what I need to do here is go back to my spreadsheet and find what was the email address again? Amore. So he's right here, and I'm going to highlight him in a different color so I can keep track of these. And I'm actually going to go down here. Let me go over to the side here. I want to get to another column here. So E, I'm going to say email does not exist in domain. And then I'm going to highlight that one in blue like his. Okay. And then I'm going to put in email not properly configured in Aries. And then I'm going to highlight that one in the nice fuchsia, so I know I've got my little code here. I know I can go back and fix those 3 emails. So for right now, with this one, I'm just going to ignore it, and I can come back and add him in individually. So I'm going to click ignore. Please ignore. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it added 66 people to the group. It says 2 people are already members of the group. I don't know how that happened. Maybe a little error with my formula. So, but anyway, I got 66 users in at one time without, instead of having to do 25 at a time. So if I had verified all the addresses some way first, that probably would have helped. But I did find important errors that need to be fixed. So, hallelujah. Okay, so I did a little debrief with myself, and I wanted to know why 2 people were already in the group, because my formula, I'm sure it worked and it was configured correctly. So all those NAs should have been in the group. But what happened, if you remember, we found 2 email addresses that were not configured correctly in Aries. And I corrected them on the spreadsheet and then added them to the group. Well, they were configured correctly in the group. And that's why the formula didn't match them, because they were incorrect in Aries but correct on the group. So those were the 2 people who were already in the group. And then we had the one student who does not have an email created in the domain, but they have listed the email in Aries. So that's one I'll have to go back and fix later.